They say more money, more problems. They say more money, more problems. Bring on the problems.
Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the CPI report. So we're roughly a couple minutes till impact for the CPI. And right now the markets are up on the session as seen by the S&P 500. So clearly rallying into this number. Perhaps people already know, but we are rallying into the CPI print. So we're just watching the markets, waiting in action. So the dollar is dropping. Dollar is dropping significantly. The dollar is dropping significantly. Wow. What a drop in the dollar. Often they say the first move is the wrong one, but a big drop in the dollar. Spider is rallying. Look at this push up. Markets are moving before the print is out. So they always say someone knows. The DXY just took a nice drop. Look at that. Flip back to the SPY. So markets are up. If the dollar drops, markets will surge. Should be out in about 17 seconds. So the estimate is 6.5. That's what consensus is. Spiders are dropping. Look at this. Markets are dollars ripping, SPYs dumping. Numbers 6.5 exactly in line. Spiders took an initial sell. The dollar is ripping. That should be bad for the markets. That should be bad for the market. Dollar ripping. As long as that dollar rips, the SPY is going to keep going lower. But 6.5 coming in line with expectations. So far Apple's down. So far Microsoft's down. We are seeing some heavy SPY is red. Dollars pumping. Yields are up. Dollars surging. Beautiful print on the CPI. Well, in line with expectations. And considering the market is at resistance already, this is why the sell-off is occurring. Everything is in line. There must be some pretty bad numbers in there for it to basically but the dollar's pumping. So the markets are settling down as we just wait the anticipation and digestion of this report. The dollar and SPY is catching a little bit of a bid. But yields are surging. So the 2-year is surging. So that is showing that the Fed probably is remaining more hawkish. The 2-year yield is surging. Let's flip back to the DXY. Look at that. The DXY has pretty much took that initial dump. And now it's trying to rally back. But yields are up. Yields are slightly up. Let's take a look at the long end yields. So yeah, we have like the 10-year surging up. Pretty big move on the 10-year. But the SPY nonetheless is seeing some downside action. And that's pretty good for our shorts up until this point in time. But the 2-year did gap up. Markets are settling, but the SPY is down, so we should see some sell side pressure as long as the dollar remains. So the SPY is still settling in here. Dollar's still settling down. Yields are coming in a little bit. So the S&P 500 is currently down. Let's just see how much it's currently down from the highs. So at the lows, the S&P basically dropped from surging. It basically dropped 1.59% from the highs. So that's currently the range. I do think we're likely low. But the dollar's coming back in, so the SPY may catch a bid. Apple remains weak. Tesla remains a little stronger than most. The dollar has reversed, so that should catch a little bit of a bid for the markets. So the markets are coming back. You can see that's a pretty big sell-off in range. But now the dollar is down and negative on the session. So as the markets digest, clearly the market reaction is to the most likely going to be to the upside now, considering the dollar is falling substantially. So the dollar is still collapsing. So as long as that dollar remains weak, the S&P is going to continue to rally. Let's just flip to the daily chart. So we do have some support on the dollar, a little lower.
Report. Vincent Reinhardt is expert at that. Vincent Reinhardt is with Dreyfus and Mellon, and of course led all.
But the SPY is basically going to the positive side now again. And jobless claims also just came out. Jobless claims in at around 205,000. So better than expected, which actually is kind of negative for the market. So the spiders are basically retraced and recaptured all of those gains that it lost. So basically oil's up on the session, natural gas, most stocks are now green on the session, just due to the fact that the dollar has given up that little bit of a surge and rally that it had. But we'll have to see what type of price action. That initial dump on the SPY is interesting because does it mean that we potentially retest those lows? That's a big question. Now a level that I'm watching on the dollar is going to be this key reversal, this 103.44. If we close below, these markets will likely head to the negative side in the coming week or two. Sorry, the dollar will likely head and keep trending lower. This weekly reversal signal is still technically intact. We have to have a weekly close below it for us to negate this potential level. So it'll be interesting to see how the dollar finishes. Catching a little bit off the lows. As the markets digest the CPI print in the sense as to what areas were sticky, we could see some initial reversals and adjustments. But so far the SPY is still up on the session. So it'll be interesting to see if the markets come down and do a test candle down here. You would have to see the dollar rally and commence back up to the upside. But that's a big question. Whether or not we'll do that, time will tell. So right now the inflation comes at 6.5% year over year, summing up the year of 2022, as well as the initial job loss claims came in at 205,000. The market was expecting 215. So that's showing that the labor market is remaining tighter than what is expected. And obviously with the Fed trying to cause more pain in the labor market, it's interesting to see that yields are still collapsing. Obviously the CPI is the most important. But the fact that that labor market remains strong and inflation is coming down could pose a negative. And here we're seeing the dollar creep back up. So again, potentially people digesting that labor market report as well as the inflation, coupling it together and seeing the probabilities of what the Fed is likely to do. And over the course of the day and the next couple days, we'll likely see people digest the CPI report. Obviously with the report, we don't have time to read it at this point in time. We focus on the price action. But these algos digest things in the matter of seconds, as seen by the drop in the S&P and then the initial rip back up. But over the coming days, we'll have analysts, we'll also dive into it, basically digesting the components of the CPI to see what areas were troublesome. Perhaps rents are still high, perhaps food is still high, perhaps energy is probably softened, used cars have probably softened, but we will know more of the details as things progress. But right now we just care about the market action. And clearly the dollar is down at the moment, but trying to potentially put in a little bit of a doji. If the dollar puts in a little bit of a bottoming tail here on the hourly basis, there's 19 minutes left, these markets could be in for some downside today. Almost like this test candle on the S&P was just like a warning shot fired across the bow. But again, we're just jumping a little bit too premature here. We really have to see how they open. Right now, gold remains strong, so that potentially is signaling that the dollar may remain weak. But the markets are still trying to digest things. And right now, Apple is down, Microsoft's down. You have the semis that are up, Tesla's remaining slightly up. So the S&P is still gaining some steam, basically just trading in a range. So I just covered our pins short from yesterday's day trade action, 26.57. We covered for a profit of just a small gain, a profit of 16 cents per share. So we did cover that day trade winner pins, our pins short, just to potentially accumulate a little bit more cash, heavy, as we head into the market open. But we still have that UAL short. That level is extended nonetheless. And the dollar seems to be coming back down. Hey everybody, so we're back here live. Basically, you can see the SPYs coming back down as the dollar pushes back up. But right now, in terms of what we're going to be doing, because we need to work on some levels, we're going to get some more coffee. We're going to analyze a couple charts, try to find out some setups and plays heading into the market bell. So we're about 45 minutes till market open. We will resume this live stream back at 9:15, 9:20, give or take. But we really need to crunch some levels to see any potential day trading setups that may loom. So at this point in time, we're going to just leave the stream going with a few of the charts up, but I will be off the mic and we will resume the day trade live session closer to the market bell around 9:20. So take care and thanks for tuning in with the CPI report. It is looking like the markets want to rally off of this report, but again, there's some headwinds with the dollar potentially, and we'll just have to continue to monitor things. All right, everybody, take care, and thank you again.
positive by 0.6%. With us now, I'm pleased to say, TD's Priya Misra, Jim Bianco of Bianco Research. Priya, first to you, your first take on this one.
Sure. So I think there were some positives in the form of this. Inflation has clearly peaked. I think we're seeing goods inflation continuing to decline. What I'm a little surprised by the market reaction is that the service inflation, so service CPIs, shelter inflation, core services ex shelter, that's still high. It's actually accelerated over the last couple of months. I think if you take the Fed at face value, that's what they care about. I think the easy part of the decline in inflation may be underway. Goods inflation's declining, commodity prices are falling. The much harder part is getting that service inflation down consistent to 2%. I think the market thinks that, they can extrapolate this trend and that the Fed has maybe one or two more 25 basis point hikes. I think the Fed may have to actually continue to hike. So our call is 5.5 for that terminal rate. We're calling for a 50 in February. I mean, maybe that's a 25, but I think the Fed's going to say we're not done. I think the market's a little too optimistic, extrapolating that this decline in service inflation will continue. And historically, service inflation is very sticky on the way down.
Jim Bianco, are you on the other side of that argument?
Not really. I think that what the market should be focusing on as we go forward from here is where do we go next? Okay, inflation peaked, 9% was the high. That's the easy call. It's very obvious that that's happened. Are we going to 2% without any kind of intervention like a recession or anything else to dampen demand to get us down there? Or, as Mike McKee just pointed out, do we bottom out somewhere around 3 or 4%, the 3 and 6 month averages that we've seen? Is that where we bottom? Because if that's where we bottom, that will be unacceptable for the Fed, and that they will not be looking to pivot or they won't be looking to slow down the rate hikes. Yes, they'll move 25 basis points in February. That has been priced in for a month now, that it would be a 25 basis point move and maybe 25 basis points after that. But I think the narrative and the attention should turn to how far down are we going to go, not has inflation peaked.
This is what Sarah House of Wells Fargo is getting at as well. She says we're approaching this last mile, this big effort, and that last mile will be the hardest mile. Priya, you've made the same point. Just how much demand destruction you still think we need to get inflation to where the Fed wants to see it?
So I think we need a lot more demand destruction, particularly in the labor market. I think businesses are hoarding labor. Wages did come down a little bit last week, but, you still look at year-over-year wages well north of 4.5%, not consistent with 2% inflation. I would also argue the lags point, the long and variable lags. The Fed is looking at data right now, and that data on the labor market does not suggest that demand destruction. How forward-looking can the Fed be to say that we think this demand destruction will happen in the labor market 6 months out? I think if you take them at face value, they are saying they're responding to data as it comes in. So, our view is they are going to be late. And I think the market is cheering. We're pricing in more rate cuts at the end of this year, more cuts next year. I think that is a mistake because the Fed is telling us they're worried about the mistake of the 70s. They really want to see that 2% inflation. And my views are there are structural forces that's going to keep inflation high. Until the Fed accepts that and is perhaps okay with a 3% inflation, they are going to be really reluctant to, I would even argue, stop hiking, let alone start to cut rates. So this optimism why the 2 years falling is all these cuts getting priced in. I think that can get taken out as we hear from the Fed that they can stop at, maybe it's 5.25 or 5.5, and then they're going to just stay there for a very long time while that demand destruction that you talk about is an intended consequence of policy, and they have to see that through. And I think the market's already looking ahead to when can that easing happen. I think we'll be waiting for quite some time for that.
Priya, you mentioned what's happening right now. Neil Dutta of Renmark is pushing back against all these recession calls and talking about what he thinks is happening right now. Financial conditions are now easing and have been for a couple of months, supporting economic growth right now. Instead of long and variable, I think the lags are short and predictable. Jim Bianco, your thoughts on that? The fact that some people think we're actually seeing a reacceleration in the US economy.
Yeah, there's plenty of evidence to suggest it. Initial claims this morning at 205,000. And there really isn't a lot of evidence that the economy is slowing. When Priya says, we need to see more demand destruction in labor, I want to say we need to see any demand destruction in labor right now, because 3.5% unemployment, 205,000 in initial claims, and still printing 200,000+ for payrolls every month, that's not demand destruction at all. And if those numbers continue to move forward from here, it's going to be hard to bring that wage inflation down, which is at 4.5%, I think much below 3.5% or 3%. And according to Powell's, services ex housing, you're not going to see inflation, dip into a 2 handle without that demand destruction. And if we don't get it, then we're going to have to pivot that narrative, as I was talking about earlier, to not just that inflation is peaked, but how do we get to 2% without a recession? And if we come out of a recession, does inflation just bounce right back up above 2%? And that's an uncomfortable question for Wall Street right now.
Mike McKee mentioned Patrick Harker a few minutes ago, leaning towards a 25 basis point hike over at the Philly Fed. He says this, though, in response to some questions in the Q&A, favors rising rates a bit above 5% and then pausing. Now, to your point, Priya, if we take the Fed at face value, they're not cutting interest rates. But I think the problem at the moment, Priya, is that I can't find many people that are taking the Fed at face value. Can you?
I think that when you listen to the Fed, all they can sort of tell us is the reaction function. So maybe the markets understood their reaction function. I think where the debate in the market is the economic outlook. I think the market is a lot more optimistic than the Fed in terms of how quickly that inflation will decline. Look at the TIPS market. Market's pricing in 1 year inflation at 2%. I mean, we're talking about will it settle at 3%, as a good thing. But the market's pricing in well below that. So I think the market pricing in these cuts is not so much second guessing the Fed reaction function. It's saying that the economy might be much weaker, that inflation might be much weaker, and so the Fed will have the ability to cut rates because inflation is back down. I think the uncomfortable question, to Jim's point, is what if inflation does settle at 3%? Then I think the Fed is telling us very clearly that they need a much
Hey everybody, welcome back to Trading Capital's live stream. So right now the markets have pulled off from the highs as the dollar has had a little bit of a bounce. If we look at the DXY, you can see that it's still trading inside of this 15-minute potential doji bottoming signal. Now, as long as we don't close below this wick low on a 2-candle formation, this bottom is still intact, and it does mean that the dollar has a chance of rallying up. So these markets may not be in for an upside rally like most people are anticipating. Now, the markets are positive. Many stocks are up on the session because the dollar and yields have fallen. So let's just keep in mind that the positive upside bias still remains. Now, one of the things that I will bring to your radar is that the markets are trading into resistance, very decent resistance at the moment, as seen by the top of this channel. You can clearly see we're at the top end of the range, and it does favor somewhat of a consolidation or pullback. So, considering we rallied over the last couple of days, I think most of the move has already been priced in relevance to what the CPI came in at. And despite the CPI coming in with expectations, 6.5, the fact that the labor market still remains extremely tight is a little bit of a negative for the markets. And you can clearly see they are coming in. Now, a couple stocks on the radar to watch. So on the short side, we're looking at COPX, SCCO. SCCO has made a terrific move. The level that we're going to play on SCCO, let me just get this ready. Excuse me while my charts load, but the S&P is still falling, coming in a little bit more sharper now. SCCO. Okay, so SCCO has had a terrific move. Really, the level that we're going to play is double top, if that comes into that straight shot. You could potentially play this major pivot zone here, but it is a little bit higher risk at that point in time, but it has had a impeccable move. Bull flag consolidation break. You're on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of upside in a row. You just filled this technical gap. So that's one potential play. We're also going to be looking at BHP. So BHP for a short. BHP for a short. Where I like BHP, there's a couple different levels. This major technical gap, as well as this double top zone here. And then you also have some gaps mixed in. So there's lots of technical resistance up ahead, but that's a potential short. GE is another one. So a lot of these are going to depend on the volume profiles and flows first thing in the morning. They're not a guaranteed short. For GE is one of these that have had a pretty impeccable move. We have two levels on GE. Basically, this technical gap fill will be the first level, and you have this pivot high action over there. But GE has had a pretty stupendous run to the upside as well since that spin-off. We're also going to take a look at UAL. Obviously, we're still short UAL right now, which I did add to around 48.70-ish, 75-ish to my short. But UAL is another one that's had a pretty impeccable move. You're into resistance. You could short this double top right here. It did go a little bit higher in the pre-market, but this is a decent area for UAL. And then we're looking at Softy. Microsoft obviously is a potential play. This one's not as technically sound as the other ones, but if you get a float up to the gap fill, you could short that level. Right now the markets are coming in a little bit sharper as seen by the dollar rallying. Let's just put back the S&P 500. We'll flip back to the hourly chart just so, actually we'll go back to the 15. So we'll look at the 15-minute chart. Lots of wild price action at the moment. Right now we are seeing Microsoft come in, Apple come in a little bit. You can also short the semis at double top. Semiconductors SMH at 231.44 is a decent level. So we're seeing Bitcoin trading down at the moment. You have the likes of some of these meme stocks running again, like BBBY. Pretty impeccable move. If we get another push up on BBBY, I may consider pulling the trigger, but this one is extremely high risk. So BBBY has had a pretty impeccable move. So BBY is trading up into this pivot zone here. You can see it trading at 412 in the pre-market. You do have good resistance up in this level. You can clearly see that we have this pivot high reversal candle, as well as these major pivot support zones, which are now resistance. So BBBY is a potential as well. Let's just see where it's trading currently speaking. So it's hitting that one resistance level as we speak. The second one up is a little bit stronger, so we can maintain and watch that. And then Newmont's another potential one, NEM. We played this one yesterday for a short and we won. Newmont's trading back up to the highs of that previous short, and that should be a decent level for Newmont as well. And you know what? I'm actually going to pull a short on Newmont. Let me just take a look. I'm filled at 53.40, 53.40 short Newmont. So it's a 1/6 position, but 53.40 on Newmont. Let me just flip to the daily. $53.40 short on Newmont. $53.40 short on Newmont. 1/6 position. So it's trading up a little bit higher. Spiders are catching a little bit of a bid. So this market may be in for a pop, initial pop, and then a potential fade. So that's kind of what I might be seeing occurring early on. Slip back to the SPY. This is the big level to beat on the DXY. So the markets are about to open in 4 minutes. We're seeing natural gas up, semis are up, SMH. Most things are slightly positive on the session, as seen with the drop in the dollar. So we are short Newmont pre-market. One-six position. And just to keep on our radar, that SCCO, BHP, GE. So right now China stocks are pulling back a little bit. You still have strength in gold in the metals, but we are fading Newmont. These markets look like they could be faded at this level. We're about to open soon. Let's just get ready for this market action. So Newmont's trading down. 53.40. Now it's slightly up. Spiders are. Let's see what happens with the spiders if they get faded. Newmont's coming back down. Natural gas is looking pretty good. Oil's looking very strong.
As you're opening down, switch at the border, get to the bond market. Yield shaping up as follows on a 10-year yield in America.
Newmont's
down
coming
3 or
back
4
down.
basis
Spiders
points,
look
sub
to be dropping
350
a little bit.
earlier this morning. 350.41 right now.
Shorting Newmont
the high
here.
of last year, the 10-year peaked at 433.
GE's still positive.
We're well below
We could
that
see a
level now
move.
by more than 80 basis points. In the FX market,
We could see a move in GE. SCCO is approaching double top. SCCO. Markets are pushing. You still have strength in energy, massive strength in energy. Newmont's continuing to push. So the spiders are still just chopping. Newmont were flat. Newmont were flat. It's interesting to see the airlines remaining strong even though oil's pumping. markets, the SPY is coming down a little bit. Still slightly positive on the session. But considering the dollar is down substantially, you'd expect the markets to be up a little bit more. But that's probably due to the fact of that little bit of a rally. GE starting to come in. Spiders are coming in a little bit. You have Apple leading the downside. Tesla downside. So you have potentially the markets trying to roll over. Let's check back to Newmont. Newmont's remaining strong. That's because gold is remaining strong as well. If that dollar gets a little bit of a bid, we could certainly see the markets roll over. I'm going to add to my UAL short here at 49 bucks. $49. So the spiders are still remaining fairly positive on the day, but starting to come in. So my UAL average is 47.37. 47.37. Spiders have just gone negative. That's interesting. Spiders have gone, Apple's falling sharply. You have the Dow components very, very strong. Oil remains strong. China stocks are remaining a little bit weaker, but some of them are catching a bid. You have the likes of JPM that are still up on the session. Let's check back with Newmont. Newmont's coming in from our short level, so let's just continue to monitor that. And UAL is pumping. Spiders are still gone negative. Wow, UAL has gone parabolic. But Newmont's going negative. We're in the money on Newmont. Let's see if we can get some more downside on Newmont. Newmont keeps coming in. What that means is we could see a money rotation into the dollar again. But the markets are trying to fall a little bit sharper now. Yeah. No, this is a full position. So the spiders are still trying to fall a little bit more. Dollar might catch a bid. So you're seeing the Dow components remain strong except for Apple. Apple is weighing on the overall indices. We're short Newmont still. Newmont's coming down. We could potentially look for this gap fill on Newmont, which would be a nice little gain for us. We're short Newmont and UAL. Short Newmont and UAL. Still seeing the spiders potentially go negative. The dollar is trying to potentially put in. Semis are flat. Apple's just slightly down. Tesla is just down 2.33%. Right now you have the biggest movers. BBBY is up 17.7. AAL is up 5.22. Amazon's just flat. So you're seeing a little bit of weakness in the semis as well, but nothing too crazy. UAL is still pumping. Oil still remaining strong. Newmont's catching a bounce. So we're seeing weakness in AstraZeneca, some pharma names. Let's see how healthcare is doing. Healthcare is falling pretty sharply here now. The likes of Eli Lilly have gone negative. AbbVie has gone negative substantially. So AbbVie is almost hitting a level. AbbVie's actually interesting. AbbVie's interesting. Spiders are rolling over harder now. There's Newmont. Newmont's coming in. Still seeing UAL remain strong. Could see these markets being faded now. This is what's going to be interesting about this market session. But the Jets are remaining crazy strong. Oh my goodness. The Jets are remaining crazy strong. Apple's still coming in. Energy stocks are still remaining relatively strong. UAL is pumping. We could have a potential trade with AbbVie, ABBV. Looking at the dollar, catching a little bit of a bid. Obviously the SPY is not liking that. Newmont, we're in the money right now about 36 cents. We're looking for more. We're looking for at least 50 cents. At least 50 cents on Newmont, which puts us at this 52.89 area. We could see that if the dollar remains strong. But wow, what a move on the airline stocks. Just completely rallying to the upside like nobody's business. Spiders are catching a bounce. You could still see a little bit of weakness creep into this market. Healthcare is still remaining down. Likes of Eli Lilly, AbbVie. AbbVie's remaining weak. AbbVie's a potential day trade at 152.15 long. I'm still short, and I may cover my short trade there. But we're still waiting. Newmont's still coming in. Gold's still remaining under resistance. Tesla's coming in. It's down now to 2.99% on the session. So we'll see if this market rally lasts. Airlines are still remaining strong. Newmont's still coming in a little bit. Spiders are just basically flat, down a little bit on the session. Oil remains strong. Natural gas remains strong. Airline stocks remain strong. Dollar's just hovering in the same spot. So oil remains up on the session. We could see the SPY continue to come in. Newmont, we're still in the money. Let's flip back to the SPY. You're still seeing the dollar remain inside of that 15-minute bottoming tail that it put in. But we could see more market weakness slowly creep in. But right now, markets are remaining exceptionally strong. Exceptionally strong. So the spiders are still coming down. Right now it's a mixed market session. You are seeing weakness across pharma, healthcare. So you're seeing some mixed price action going on. There's some stocks that are reversing. There's some that are remaining strong. Bitcoin has pulled off substantially from the highs. Spiders are still coming in. UAL might be showing signs of weakness now. Let's see the SPY. SPY's still trading at resistance. Notice how we never broke out of this channel. This is the key channel connecting your major pivots. Let me just adjust this channel so we have a symmetrical move. Probably about there is where you connect the most pivots. And you can see if we pull that forward, we never ever confirmed above that channel. Now we're starting to come back in. So this could be a potential market fade. Let's check China stocks. Alibaba's pulled off the highs. We're still short Newmont. Newmont still seems to be wanting to come in, simultaneously moving with gold. So we're in the money on Newmont. We're going to be looking to cover soon. I think we're seeing yields potentially pop. As the SPY comes in, Newmont should continue to come in. DXY is trying to move back up. Tesla's down over 3% now. Apple's also falling. So no other trade setups other than the one we're in right now, or the two we're in. You're seeing Walmart fall sharply now. Tesla's falling sharply. So this is an interesting sell the news event. I think more analysts were potentially expecting a better than the 6.5, even though that was consensus. So spiders are still coming down. Aggressive traders can probably play this support zone around 393 or a pierce of 393. A pierce of 393. I'll pull it up on the chart. I'm not going to play it, but that level right there you could potentially play. I would just let that level pierce. So maybe a pierce of around 392.99. That's a decent level of support, but let me be clear that markets are into resistance, and it seems that people are selling this news event. And if the dollar puts in a bottoming tail, that's certainly not going to bode well for the markets. A daily bottoming tail. This could be a clear gap and crack. Newmont's still coming down, so let's see if we can squeeze more out of Newmont. So you are seeing many stocks actually start to crack. Tesla's falling sharper now. Energy still remains strong. Tesla is filling a little mini gap fill right now, but there is a larger one at 113 that could be played. Tesla. We'll keep our eye on that. Newmont's still coming in now. So I'm going to cover Newmont right here. 52.87. 52.87. Cover NEM, Newmont, for 52.87. Probably heads a little bit lower to the gap fill, but that's a win in our pocket. We will take that. That is a 52-cent gain win for us. Awesome job. First one in the books. We covered Newmont. Let's just go back into the, see if there's any other opportunities as we speak. But you are seeing the markets come in a lot harder now. You are seeing the markets come in a lot harder, but we'll take Newmont. Let's pull up Tesla because we may get a day trade opportunity, a day trade long there. So the spiders are continuing to dip. The level I'm looking for on Tesla is this 113 level. If we can flush down there, so the aggressive traders are playing this level now. It is a aggressive level to go long, but nonetheless, you can go long. I'm not taking that level. So the spiders are remaining, coming down a bit harder now. Newmont's still coming down. Newmont's actually filling that gap fill, so gap fill is the level to fill. Tesla's down 4.3%, so these markets are being faded at the moment. They certainly are being faded. So the markets are catching potentially a little bit of a bounce. You're still seeing weakness across China stocks. The Yang ETF is up 4.23% today. So on Newmont, we basically covered at 48.57. 52.87. We covered Newmont for a gain of 51 cents. Spiders are continuing to remain weak. Tesla's catching a little bit of a bounce off that 200 moving average. The dollar's actually trying to put in a bottoming tail. That is a little bit scary considering the markets sold off substantially. So interesting to see that the dollar's still selling. So markets are remaining weak despite catching a little bit of a bounce here. Tesla still might be coming down. So these markets have clearly been faded, and I think due to market weakness, we're likely to see the sell side continue just due to this news event. So we're still seeing weakness in healthcare. Even Nike's come off the highs. So markets are still coming in, but many stocks have turned red on the session as seen on the SPY here. So we'll see if we can get any more action. I'm still looking, but right now we don't have any other trade setups at the moment. Semis have gone negative. Google remains weak on the session. Airlines are still remaining up. Jets are surprisingly remaining very, very strong in this market session. Very, very surprising. So the Jets ETF remains strong. Spiders are catching a little bit of a bounce here, but nothing too crazy. Caterpillar's still up on the session. Boeing is still up on the session. The spiders are still down on the session. Gold is potentially putting in almost a topping tail. There still has to be a little bit more upside in the dollar for that to happen, but let's wait and see. BBBY is being substantially faded. Airlines are still the standout stocks, basically trading near the highs of the session still. Spiders are approaching new lows and making new lows. So we're seeing incredible weakness occurring. Energy remains strong, the likes of VLO. VLO and Exxon are coming up into a short level. So VLO, let me just isolate down a level. The SPY is falling harder now. It's going to be very difficult to remain positive if the SPY keeps falling. So VLO is coming into a level. SPY, oh, Tesla's dropping hard here. We just need UAL to come in. Exxon at gap fill 113.16 or 113.15 can be played for the short side. I'm going to short VLO. I'm short VLO right here. 135.60, waiting for 135.64. 135.64, short VLO, 1/6 position. $135.94 is the next level. 135.94. That's our first level. 134. 135.94 is the next level. Let me just. So I'm going to add at 135.94. 135.94. Energy stocks are remaining strong. It's a 1/6 position. It's a 1/6 position on VLO. One-sixth. Spiders are catching a little bit of a bounce. VLO's pulling off a little bit. Let's see if we can squeeze out some profits. $135.64. So VLO's pulling off. Here we go. We're in the money on VLO. Here we go. We're in the money. 44 cents. Let's see if we can get a little bit more. Here we go on VLO. We're going to look for probably, you know what? This is a very, very healthy level. We're going to look for $1 on VLO. We're going to look for $1. So we're in the money slightly. The spiders are still remaining weak as the dollar is putting in a magnificent bottoming tail. If this holds, this market's in for some trouble. Some real trouble. So when VLO hits this level, we're already closed out Newmont for a win. VLO, we're in the money right now. You're still seeing Tesla remain weak. Semis are remaining exceptionally weak at the moment. You're still seeing strength in Exxon. You're still seeing strength in oil. Natural gas is just off the highs. Boeing is trying to make a move for it now. The dollar is pumping. The dollar is ripping. So this is now going to be a massive catalyst for the markets. Newmont has gone negative substantially. Gold is almost putting in a bottoming tail. So this is going to get nasty. This is going to get real nasty for the SPY as the dollar. Look at this surge in the dollar. Oh my goodness. This is how we're positioned. We saw accumulation occurring in the dollar and it looks to be coming to fruition. Often they say the first move is the wrong move, but look at that thing of beauty on the dollar. If that doesn't scare you being a long investor, I don't know what's going to. VLO is pushing back up. The next ad level is at this 135.94. Let's continue to see this. So we're still waiting on VLO. Spiders are trying to make new lows. They're testing that wick candle. Remember how we said that test candle might be a good area that we retrace back to? Sure enough, that's coming down. UAL still remaining strong. China stocks are starting to come in a little bit harder. Spiders are coming down a little bit harder now. Seeing a lot of weakness in many different sectors. The dollar is ripping. The dollar is almost near the highs of the session. Gold is putting in a daily topping tail. Newmont short. That was an epic level. So get ready to add to VLO as we push higher here. This is very rare phenomenon to see the dollar surging completely and energy stocks still remaining strong. So oil's pulling off from the highs as we speak. Bitcoin is putting in a daily topping tail at the moment. Still a little bit early, but it's still coming in. A daily topping tail is a thing of beauty on Bitcoin. Look at that. The dollar is almost positive. Wow. Wow. This is incredible price action. I must say, incredible price action. Some stocks, so the S&P is currently down just 0.75%. VLO, get ready to add to VLO. Get ready to add to VLO. It'll be our 2-6 position. Boeing's now positive. China stocks are falling still. VLO is still trying to come in. Gold's coming in sharper now. Gold is reversing its move as that dollar's having a strong rally. Let's take a look at gold. This is why we shorted Newmont for our first win of the day. Look at that reversal on gold. If we flip to the daily chart, you can clearly see a nasty, and look at that resistance trend line. You bubbled up against it, you pierced it, and now you're reversing. So VLO, we're still just sitting in VLO. Markets are catching a little bit of a bounce on the S&P. You have Boeing trying to surge higher, which is really intriguing. Caterpillar's also trying to surge. Spiders are stalling here. You have the long end rates going positive again, so the 10-year yield is now up on the session as well as the 20-year yield. So now the backdrop for the markets to continue lower is now solidified in my opinion, as you have the long end rates up, you have the short end rates up, and you also have the dollar trying to go positive. If the dollar goes positive today, which it's still slightly down, you will see these markets trend lower. As soon as that dollar goes positive, you'll see these markets trend lower. So we're going to add here at 135.94 still to VLO if we get a final push up. So get ready to add if it pierces here. Shorting Valero. Bitcoin still has a topping tail. The spiders are hovering at this level, trying to put in a little bit of a support bounce as we speak. I think the spiders trade down to 390.63, especially if the dollar remains strong. That's a technical gap fill on the dollar. Boeing is remaining strong. So you have Logitech down substantially. You have Unity Software's down 9.37%. Spiders are catching a bounce. We just added to our Valero short 135.95. 135.95. So we're pushing up higher on Valero. We're pushing up higher. Continuing to push as the spiders get a bounce, the dollar's pulling off. Next ad level on Valero is 136.24, which we're approaching. 136.24, which we're approaching. So 2-6 positions so far. Give you the average after. GE might be another play. It's coming up into a pretty big resistance point. But the spiders, Valero, we're going to add at 136.24. 136.24. We're at 22 right now. $136.24 added to our Valero short. 2-4. So that's a 3-6 position. You can see that just tag that level. So the dollar's taking a little bit of a breather. SPY's taking a breather. Our average on Valero is 135.94, seen on this dotted green line, and we are getting a pullback off that level. So let's adjust our profit target to basically capture. I think we can get a decent pullback back to the support zone, which would roughly be an 84-cent gain to us. But the spiders are still continuing to bounce. Boeing remains strong. Caterpillar remains strong. Nike's up. 3-6 position, yes. UAL remains strong. FCX is weak. GE is still pumping. GE is another pumping one potentially. Valero's trying to push back up. Let's see the spiders. You're getting a little bit of a bid. That's why the dollar's potentially testing that bottoming tail. So the spiders are catching a big rally. Definitely a big rally. Wow, epic rally on the spiders. As the dollar softens a little bit, you're seeing the markets push higher and higher. What a bounce in the markets. Crazy volatility. Sorry, while this chart just loads. So we're still seeing Valero potentially coming in. Let's see if we can get a little bit more on Valero. Putting a little bit of a doji. Perhaps this is the near term top again. Valero's just putting in a little bit of a distribution candle. The spiders are still remaining strong on this session. Gold has caught a little bit of a bounce. Boeing remains strong. The Dow components are remaining strong. Still a little bit of weakness in healthcare, which is interesting. Airlines are remaining fairly strong. Apple's had a nice bounce, so is Tesla. Microsoft, Valero's trying to push back up. Exxon seems to be wanting to go to this gap fill. There's a major gap fill at 113.25, but it is technically at resistance at this moment in time. Exxon could trend a little bit higher, but we shall see. Oil's pulled off from the high substantially. Valero's still putting in some potential distribution. The volume's fairly decent today. You have a little bit of weakness in two Dow components, McDonald's and Coke. They often trade as a trading pair together. Home builders are slightly down. Freeport McMoran's down. Valero's starting to pull back. We're in the money. We're going for a cover here at 135.09. Spiders are still trying to go up. On the 3-hour chart, the dollar did put in a 3-hour bottoming tail. So it's still technically holding that support level, which is super intriguing. But you could get a retrace down, which would help the markets pop in the short term. Spiders still bouncing. VLO still trending above this line. You can see this resistance. We'll see if it can give it up. But the spiders are bouncing. GE is still remaining up. Bed Bath Beyond is still up 19%, which is pretty wild in my opinion. Valero, we're basically in the money, just slightly flat on the trade. Boeing starting to pull off the highs. Caterpillar remains strong, so when we see the likes of Caterpillar start weakening, that'll likely mean that the S&P is going to start its next down leg. Cat's a major Dow as well component, so we like to see some of the market leaders trend a little bit weaker. So Valero is seeing a little bit of distribution occurring at these levels. Nothing too crazy at this point in time. Caterpillar's remaining up on the day. Valero's still distribution. The spiders are still catching a minor bounce. As the dollar wants to push back up again, we could be seeing the next resurgence here. Spiders are piercing. You can short the spiders at this level, 395 Pierce. 395 Pierce is a short level. See how we're pulling back off that level again, and it's simultaneously coinciding with the dollar rally. So spiders piercing this level, you could short the spiders. I'm just sticking with Valero right now. If the spiders pierce 395.10, I will short a 1/4 position. Okay, it's pulling off that level now. So we're still just with Valero. Let's see how gold's still potentially putting in a topping tail. Bitcoin's caught a little bit of a bounce. You still have Hess up. Some of the market leaders like are up as well. And the spiders, the SPX did tag that 200 daily moving average, so that's big resistance. That's potentially an algorithm sell signal. Let's flip back to Valero. Valero potentially is coming in. Spiders are coming in a little bit harder now. I would take your profits if you short the spiders here. If you short the spiders, you could take your profits here. Valero's still coming in a little bit. Let's see if we can get some more downside. Let's see if the dollar wants to rally. So you're still seeing the 10-year yield just slightly up. The 2-year yield is down on the session though. That's interesting. So once again, it's signaling that the bond market doesn't believe the Fed. Still just holding on to this short. ExxonMobil, XOM, is coming into a big short level, 113.16. 113.16. While this chart loads, the spiders are coming in a little bit sharper now. So we have a big technical level on Exxon, which it's approaching 113.16. 113.16. Valero's just still chopping. We're basically flat on the trade. Sorry while this Exxon chart loads. Valero, we're slightly out of the money. Spiders are still trying to come a little bit lower. Boeing remains strong on the session. You can see the short level there on XOM is the ticker. XOM, which is coming up into this level. We may have a short trade at 113.20. 113.20. Valero, we're still at 113.16. 136.17, sorry. But we're going to short this level on Exxon. XOM is the ticker. I'm going to go 1/5 position. A 1/5 position. Spiders are catching a nice bid. We're almost there, 17 cents away. Valero's trying to push back up. Exxon's almost there. Get ready to short XOM. 113.16 is the level, or 113.20. I'm going to short at 113.16. 113.16. It's at 113.12. Valero's pushing up too. I'm going to add to Valero. ExxonMobil's hit the level, 113.17 short. 113.17 short. 113.17. Valero, I'm adding here at 136.67. 136.67. Spiders are pushing up sharply now though. Spiders are pushing up. So that's the first level on Exxon. Valero's pushing up. VLO 136.67. 136.67. 4-6 position. So the spiders are pushing up substantially higher. So is Valero, so is CAT, so is Boeing. Everything's pushing up here. 136.17. Spiders are pushing up. Wow. We're going to add to our next short level on Exxon here. At 113.50. 113.50. Valero's pushing up even higher now. Coming up into the next ad level on Valero. 130, a Pierce of 137. Pierce of 137. Spiders are almost near the highs of the chart. Wow. What a rip-roaring rally now on the markets. So what looked to be a fade, potential fade, is now coming in sharply as the dollar retraces that bottoming tail that it put in. You can short the SPY double top. Exxon's coming in. Valero, we're going to add at 137, a Pierce of 137 on Valero. Spiders are ripping. Exxon's pulling back now. Valero, we're adding 3 cents away. 2 cents away, sorry. 2 cents away on Valero. Valero, big pullback coming in. So Exxon's coming in still. So Exxon, we're in the money. Valero, we're slightly out of the money. We're slightly out of the money. The spiders are pulling back off the highs. Exxon may have a 10-minute topping tail. Valero's pulled back. We're slightly out of the money on Valero, but that's okay. It should come in sharply here. It should come in sharply. Valero's got a potential 10-minute topping tail along with Exxon Mobil. Spiders are pulling off the highs. ExxonMobil's pulling off the highs. We're now in the money. Almost flat on the trade on Valero. Let's flip back to VLO. So the average on VLO is 136.17. Yep, 4-6 position. ExxonMobil's coming in. We're in the money slightly. Valero's putting in a nice distribution candle. Look at that, baby. Markets are wild today. Wild markets. So we're at a 4-6 position on VLO short, which we're flat. And we're slightly in the money on XOM. Let's see if the spiders can come in. Microsoft is at the highs of the day. The Dow is testing the highs of the day as well. Caterpillar remains a monster. Boeing remains strong. So lots of strength occurring. Let's flip back to VLO. XOM maybe is coming in. The dollar's still remaining weak. Bitcoin's caught a little bit of a bid. VLO is coming in a little bit sharper now. XOM's coming in. I still think these markets can trend a lot lower. There's a gap fill at 397.50 on the SPY. 397.53 on the SPY. So we could be heading there. 10-minute topping tail forming on XOM. We're slightly flat on the other trade. Spiders are still trying to push for the highs. Slightly flat on Valero. Exxon's trying to push back up. There's natural gas inventories at 10:30, so we could see some continued volatility occurring. Spiders remaining near the highs of the day. We're getting a little retrace here. How's XOM doing? XOM is potentially putting in a 10-minute topping tail on the 10-minute chart. We're a couple minutes away from that signal. Let's see Freeport. China stocks have rebounded slightly. You also have banks remaining strong. First Solar remaining strong. Spiders look to want to push to this potential gap fill. XOM is still lingering, but there is a gap fill around here on the S&P. That, actually I think it's a little bit lower. Let's just flip to the daily. XOM is still looking to put in that 10-minute topping tail. We're in the money on both trades. We're in the money on both sides. So the daily gap fill is right there around that 399 level. Almost to pierce the 400. Let's just leave that trend line there. So perhaps we go up there, but perhaps not. XOM is putting in what looks to be a potential 10-minute topping tail. Got about 55 seconds. Now it's catching a little bit of a bounce. Still have Boeing remaining strong, Caterpillar's remaining strong. Many of these stocks just remaining strong. Spiders are pushing for the highs. As the dollar softens a bit as well. You're still seeing mixed signals in XOM, which were in the money. We're slightly in the money. Valero, we're slightly out of the money. Natural gas is continuing to be positive. Spiders are still trading near the highs. Let's see if we can squeeze some out of this Valero. It is extended. Microsoft's still trading near the highs. Tesla's trading significantly off the lows. So spiders are still remaining near the highs. We're seeing some weakness potentially coming in Exxon. You did put a 10-minute topping tail on XOM as well as Valero. You could get a retrace up, but typically you see price action trend lower after that 10-minute distribution candle is in place. My expectations for Valero covering back at this pivot high here, that'll be over $1 gain on that trade, but anywhere between 50 cents to $1 on Valero is key. Anywhere between 50 to 75 cents on ExxonMobil. We are going to have to wrap this stream up, but so far we're basically in the money on XOM. We're slightly flat on Valero, which we're now in the money. And I do anticipate that the markets, especially these stocks that we're shorting, come in for anywhere between that 50 cents to $1 gain on both trades is acceptable. In terms of the S&P 500, you could see it push up to this gap fill, but that's a big if considering that the resistance is very, very strong up here. But ultimately there is a gap filled down to the bottom around 390 as well, 63, so we could see that filled in due time. But that really sums it up for today's trading session. Congrats on the Newmont short. Excellent job, 51 cents yet again in our pocket. So we're continuing to bank trades. Right now it does look like the dollar is potentially trying to put in a daily bottoming tail as per the 3-hour reversal signal on the DXY chart. So potentially this market could be faded later on in the session. But let's just kind of be aware of all the possibilities that there is a technical gap to the upside on the SPY just slightly above this level, which makes sense to fill considering we're so close. But if we hit that level, we could see a bigger reversal, especially with the way the dollar has rebounded off of the lows. So with that understanding in mind, let's continue to watch these charts, and we'll take you in for a couple more minutes. So the spiders are falling now. Exxon is falling. Valero, we're still slightly out of the money. Valero's pushing up a little bit more now. So we're going to short again at 137 or a pierce of 137. XOM is coming in. Spiders are coming in. The dollar is popping slightly. Let's flip with the spiders, putting in a little bit of a potential distribution and maybe a series of lower highs intraday. XOM, we're in the money right now. About 23 cents. We're looking for anything over 50 cents or more, which I do think is a great chance of getting. So here comes XOM falling. Let's see if we can get more downside. Oil's still basically trading positive on the session. Valero's still up on the session. Spiders are coming in a little bit harder now. You're seeing a little bit of money flow out of Caterpillar, out of Boeing now. They're still trading near the highs. But the markets are slowing down substantially. Yes, they are. Markets are trying to float up. Alright, so everybody, we're just still short Exxon, we're still short Valero. Stay tuned for the afternoon live stream where we will take you into the closing, last 30 minutes close. We can also update you on these 2 day trades which we're still holding. One Newmont short in our pocket. I gave you the levels for our expectations on Valero. We continue to add at Valero pierce of 137.01 and then a pierce of 137.50. So those are the next 2 add levels. That would be a full position if it hits those levels. ExxonMobil 113.50 is the next level, as well as 113.95, and basically in increments of 40 to 50 cent additional short levels on those 2 trades. So really that sums it up. Excellent job today banking that one winner, and we'll see if we can bring you more winners later on in this afternoon, as it does look like the markets are pretty much stabilizing at these levels off of the CPI report. So take care everybody, and we'll see you on the afternoon stream. And don't forget to stay tuned for that last 30-minute live session. Take care, everybody.
Good, 3%. Don't forget the end.